Hi, this is Paul Acevedo of Windows Central, here with a video review of Stranger of Sword City for Xbox One and PlayStation Vita. Stranger of Sword City is a first-person dungeon-delving RPG in the tradition of games like Might and Magic and Wizardry. As the game begins, a plane from our world vanishes only to crash in a mysterious fantasy world. The sole survivor becomes a stranger, a human with supernatural powers. The hero joins the other strangers in Sword City. Together, the strangers and their friends fight to recover blood crystals from dangerous lineage monsters, while also searching for a way back to our world. The basic story setup is fairly intriguing, but don't expect as much narrative as you'd get from typical JRPGs. This is one of those games where the NPCs do all the talking, though at least players get to make mostly inconsequential dialogue choices every now and then. At the start of the game, you'll create your own chosen one. This main character must be a human, but other party members can be fantasy races like elf, dwarf, and cat people. Upon reaching Sword City, your hero will be able to recruit a party of 5 additional adventurers. The game provides a set of 5 recruits to fill out the starting party, but you can also create several more of your own, and you get an achievement for doing so. Creation is fun because you can name everyone and choose their portraits, but the initial stat rolling mechanic is time-consuming and boring. It usually takes a lot of rolls to get a favorable stat bonus, so I wish we could just skip the process. The party's battle formation consists of 2 rows. Most characters in the second row can't use physical attacks against enemies. You have to put magic users back there, and maybe someone who wields a bow or a sling. It's an interesting limitation that forces a mix of classes rather than packing the team with nothing but melee fighters. Stranger of Sword City takes place entirely from a first-person perspective. Players must explore a variety of grid-based dungeons, filling in the map and battling monsters along the way. Filling in the grid is surprisingly fun, and the in-game map helps keep you from getting lost. As you explore each dungeon, you'll engage in both random and non-random enemy encounters. The battle system is menu-based, but surprisingly fast. You always have the choice of performing everyone's turns simultaneously to move things along faster, and you can even repeat the same moves during the next turn when needed. Sometimes one of your party members will detect a hiding spot upon entering certain rooms. These hiding areas are where you'll hunt for loot. Normal enemies don't usually drop equipment, but every hiding battle promises the chance of a loot chest. Equipment found in dungeons can then be identified back in town. Sword City's battles might be streamlined, but don't mistake that for a lack of challenge. Like other old-school first-person RPGs, the degree of challenge here is quite a bit higher than the average JRPG. Random enemy encounters will occasionally wreck your team, knocking out a member in 1 or 2 turns. You'll have to know when to run from battles and when an area's monsters are too tough for your team. When a character falls in battle, he or she loses a life crystal and must be revived back in town. Life crystals act like actual lives, so running out equals permadeath for that fighter, and it's happened to me before. To recover lives, the fallen must enter the hospital and sit things out until a certain amount of in-game time passes. This recovery system encourages players to use idle party members and experience other classes. However, it feels more like an arbitrary mechanic created to add complexity to the game. Many times when a character falls, you'll be tempted to simply quit and reload your save in order to avoid the hassle of subbing in a new warrior. Another part of the challenge is that progress can only be saved in town. The farther you get into a dungeon, the greater the risk that your party will die, and you'll lose everything since your last save. This risk-reward scenario resembles that of Dark Souls. It feels good to revisit dungeons several times, getting stronger between attempts, and then eventually reach the end and win. Like the dungeon delves of yore, Sword City takes place entirely in the first person. The dungeon environments here are rendered in 3D, with all characters and monsters brought to life by static, beautifully drawn portraits. Sword City's 3D dungeons generally look passable enough, but the environments and texture maps are simplistic by modern standards. That said, the game's character and monster artwork pretty much makes up for the simplistic environments. We even get 2 different NPC visual styles to choose from. After first launching in English on Xbox One, Stranger of Sword City has also just arrived on PlayStation Vita. A Steam version will follow in June 2016. Having played on both Xbox One and Vita, I find that the big screen experience really shows off Sword City's amazing artwork and provides a more immersive first-person experience. The Xbox One really needs more distinctly Japanese games like this, so all JRPG fans should support the developer by picking up this release. That said, the Vita version of Sword City is just as good as its Xbox One counterpart. The only loading times you'll encounter happen upon entering a dungeon or switching floors, and they still only last a couple of seconds. The Vita version has all the same content plus the convenience of portability, so I definitely recommend it to owners of Sony's woefully underappreciated portable console. Stranger of Sword City isn't for everyone. The sometimes steep difficulty and old-fashioned gameplay and looks make it an acquired taste. But this type of game is really satisfying, and dedicated players will overcome the challenge. It costs $40, and you can buy digitally on both Xbox One and Vita. The Vita version also has a physical release in North America, with a physical Xbox One version only available in Asia. Thanks for watching. Read my full detailed review at windowscentral.com. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch. And whether you like old school games or not, don't hate. Appreciate.